Also great to have Philip Ingram here, former senior military intelligence officer. Thank you, as always, for joining us on a Thursday.
Good morning, yes.
Always a pleasure. Lots to talk about today, and I hate to tell you, I'm really sorry. I know this is the sort of story, and I know Mike's been talking about it, and people the murder verdicts came through just after I got off air yesterday, and there is such an urge when you see these stories about little children being brutally murdered and beaten and tortured for months to the end of their lives, and nothing is done. 15 opportunities being missed by social services, by schools, by police to save this little girl, Sara Sharif's life before she was murdered by her father and her stepmother. And the urge to turn the page, the urge to turn off the radio or the TV is so strong, and especially when you are a parent. The urge to, as my husband and I both did watching the news last night, to say words that you definitely can't say on air about the people involved is so strong. And then the anger and the fury moves on to the people who didn't commit the actual crime but didn't prevent the crime from happening in the first place. The police officers, the social services, the judges, all the school staff, all the people who went, oh, we think this girl might be being beaten. There are accusations. Oh, her mum's claiming this. Oh, other children have been beaten by this man. Oh, other women have been beaten by this man. But there's never enough evidence. Oh, but just maybe everyone's telling lies and he's telling the truth. Let's leave a poor, innocent, vulnerable child with this monster. And again it happens. And again, when it happens, we're told, aren't we, every time, lessons will be learned. This must never happen again. The ministers are out saying this on the airwaves today, and all of the authorities are making their statements saying, you know, we're hand-wringing and, oh, we must stop this, we must stop this. But it's going to keep on happening. And by the way, we only know the names of a handful of the children this has happened to. Little baby P, Peter Connolly, Victoria Climbier, and just a few others. We only know their names because they're the ones that have been publicised. We don't know the many dozens and dozens of others. Equally, we don't know the hundreds, perhaps thousands of other children who've been saved by social services, by police and by the authorities when they've done the job. But one child's death in this manner is one way too many. And it cannot be allowed to continue happening, and yet it does. So my question to you today is, how do we prevent this from happening again? And do you think lessons will ever be learned? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number. You can text the word TALK to 87222. You can also get in touch on X at TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs one standard network rate message. Before we get to that, just want to let you know we're also going to be talking about this 10,000 civil service jobs, which could be axed as ministers try to make savings demanded by the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. I'm thinking some of those 10,000 jobs could easily be happening in the Metropolitan Police because a bunch of their civilian employees have voted for the first time to strike. Why? They're being treated awfully, getting a massive pay cut? No. They're being ordered to actually go into the sodding office a few days a week. Yeah, that's it, and they're striking. You know what? Bye-bye, thanks very much. Services no longer required. Go and work in a warehouse in Asda if that's what you want to do. Also, the government has announced that puberty blockers have been indefinitely banned as they pose an unacceptable safety risk for children wanting to change gender. This is absolutely to be welcome. This is something we were very fearful, the Labour government, that is totally and utterly captured by the trans ideology generally, that they're actually safeguarding children this way. We've got a lot to be grateful there on that out front, West Street and the Health Secretary behind that. We are going to talk about all of that, plenty more besides, including those deportations and the latest figures on backlog in criminal justice as well. That's all coming up on the show. First of all, though, Philip Ingram, let's come to you and I, trying not to say words that come to mind initially when we talk about this case of Sara Sharif and her father, Urfan Sharif, and his wife, the stepmother, Beinash Batool, and the uncle who failed to stop it. They're going to be sentenced. They'll be put behind bars, no doubt, for life. We sodding well hope so. Never been a fan of the death penalty. I do think that state murder is wrong, even for the most heinous crimes, but my God, as I said to Mike, I could make an exception in these circumstances. Don't turn off, because I do think you need to know some of the things that they did. Don't turn off. Have respect enough for this little 10-year-old girl to listen to what was done to her by the man whose job it was in this world to keep her safe. This is what his job. You're a dad. That's your job. You keep your child safe. On occasions, she was bound by her arms and legs and hooded in a plastic bag with parcel tape around her head while she was battered by her father and stepmother with a cricket bat, a metal pole and a rolling pin. She was strangled until her neck broke. She had so many injuries, so many broken bones, so many bruises. They didn't actually know when they found her dead body which injury had killed her. She'd been burnt with an iron, and she had been bitten. Philip, you're a parent, I'm a parent. It defies belief that anyone could do this to any child, let alone their own. Why does it keep happening? That's you know what? That's the only response. What?
Yeah, you know, it has to come down, and it's not just it keeps happening. 15 different indicators that were there. But
there were 15 opportunities when people raised the alarm, and then the little girl was left with this evil man.
It happened over 10 years as well.
Yeah. She was placed under and social services. So there was a red alert the day she was born that this guy was a risk to her.
The thing that really gets me is she is the ice crystal at the tip of the iceberg. What is going on out in communities that we don't know about? Because your children are still being abused and harmed, but it's not coming to their death. Out of sheer luck. And actually a lot of them would probably want that because of what they're having to suffer.
And they turn up at school all smiles, this little girl, you know, because that's their break.
Yeah, exactly.
Until she was homeschooled. Exactly. Again, that should have been a red flag as well.
This is you know, to my mind, this is another failure of wokeness and child safety by those in, you know, her parents had failed. And their circumstances, as more detail comes out, is even more shocking. They shouldn't have been in this country.
He was here illegally. There were numerous sort of sham marriages.
Exactly, and we still haven't got all the detail. I don't think that's out there. But you know, social services have failed. Their teaching staff have failed. The police have failed. The judiciary have failed. You know, she was examined. The evidence was examined in front of a child. Or a family court, and the judge said she should go back to her father because that's what she said she wanted. She was a child.
But also,
she's going to say that.
Yeah, exactly. If she says anything different, what do you think happens to her?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. The amount of time. So we saw this, you know, like with baby P. Do you remember that case when the police officers, the social workers turned up and looked at the child, and he had chocolate smeared over his face, to cover the bruises. In this case, Sara Sharif suddenly started wearing a full headscarf. Now, by the way, she was a primary school age child. There is no requirement whatsoever. Well, there's no requirement for the headscarf anyway in Islam at all. There certainly isn't in the Quran or the Hadith for prepubescent children at primary school to wear it. It's a political ideology, this, not a religious expression. That alone, again, I'm with France. I'd ban it all for every age in all public institutions. But certainly at school. But that should have been a big warning sign that no one. She was hiding her bruises. Then she was taken out of school. She was being homeschooled. You know, again, what qualifications did the people have who were, you know, and quite apart from her safety? And we know there are numerous children who are missing from the system. There's the government, they're bringing in a rule where there's actually a list of children. Oh, good, another list of children. Doesn't make any difference. And one of the things that lots of social workers and lots of people involved in this field have said to me, one of the issues is social workers, a lot of them are working from home now. Not quite sure how you can safeguard kids when you're working from home. That's got to stop tomorrow. Done deal. Back in the office, back out and about. They've got too many people there looking after. As you mentioned, that the woke side of things. There is this desperate urge to keep families together, particularly usually keeping children with their mothers, even when the mothers, you know, are heroin addicts and, you know, bring in a string of men to the home who are abusing their child. That, you know, there's just this, you've got to keep the family together at all costs. The incredible damage that's done to children from that. Plus, we've seen this again and again in cases where it's involved gay people or people of ethnic minorities or minority religions, where the urge is, well, you know, cultural differences, you know, it's fine, people behave differently. By all accounts, this man was very persuasive, very controlling, very persuasive. But each time, again, failures by the police. The police saying, again and again, there wasn't evidence. Women making accusations of abuse, him, you know, imprisoning women, kidnapping women, you know, keeping them in their homes, threatening them, violence, children and the women again and again. But each time there wasn't enough evidence. But that's because they don't look for it. But there still is. But they'll keep a record of a supposed non-crime hate incident involving a hurty tweet where someone says that, you know, trans women are men, a statement of fact. Well, that's, you know, that hurts someone's feelings. But they won't put together, hey, this guy's in this country illegally. He has been in relationships with a number of women, all of whom have made complaints of violence against him. What do you think the odds are that something's not going on? And this willingness to risk the safety of a child, the life of a child ultimately, at the altar of keeping the family together and not making judgments. We need to make a lot more judgments. You know what? You haven't got like a proper, you know, you've got a bed for your kid. You're not feeding your kid. There's no bedtime for your kid. You know, your kid has bruises. You can't explain them. Sorry, we're going to go with no benefit of the doubt at this point.
Yeah. We've got a judgment now against the father, against the stepmother, against the uncle, and they're going to be sentenced. But we need judgments against the police officers, the judge, the social workers, the teachers, and I'm afraid they need to be held to account. Because if they're not held to account, then what's going to happen is their management systems are going to close around them, and they're going to go, oh, there we are. That was terrible, and you were part of it. But we'll look after you. Don't worry. As soon as you start to hold people to account from that perspective, it's going to go, oh, I'll never let that happen again.
But the thing is, of course, each social worker, they're dealing with numerous cases, and as a social worker said to me once, you know, you've got a kid that you think might be being beaten, and you've got a kid who's got cigarette burns on their arms because dad's putting his cigarettes out on them. Which one do you worry about? Well, you can only do one that hour, so you worry about, you know, they're dealing with so many extreme cases, and we don't hear about the cases where they do successfully get kids out. But there is this whole idea that kids being taken into care is a bad thing, because outcomes for kids in care are really bad. Well, if you're still alive, it's better than Sara Sharif's outcome.
Again, if the social workers in the front line, and if you can map it back, if they've kept their notes right and said, I couldn't deal with that child because I was having to deal with that because I'm overloaded with that.
I've got 26 kids this week.
That's then a management issue, or it's a chief executive issue, or it's a ministerial issue.
It's a funding issue.
And a funding issue. But somewhere in that chain, you can say that person is responsible for all of the failures that are there and hold them to account.
But we'll also come back to the other key issue here. This man was from Pakistan. They were all from Pakistan, this family. He was here. He had a string of convictions. Why was he still here?
Why was he still in the country?
Why was he still here?
First conviction should have been sent back.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Again, well, look, I'd love to hear from you on this. I mean, I don't say I'd love to hear from you. I mean, I'm horrified about this story. We've got to talk about it. We've got to talk. We cannot just go, I'll turn the page, I'll turn it off, I'll put some music on, I don't want to listen to it. Got to face, this is happening. This is happening, and it's happening on a huge scale in this country, and we need to do something about it, because we cannot bear for another child. We can't have another baby P. We can't have another Victoria Columbia. We can't have another Sara Sharif, another one of all the other children that go on that list. So do give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Let's also talk about other matters which seem rather pointless compared to this little girl's life. Planning reforms. Labour's announcing what they're going to do to basically push through planning reforms. We're told this is going to be bulldozing through the home counties, through our green and pleasant land on the green belt. Good. I'm sorry, I want homes built. I don't normally agree with Angela Rayner. We need those 1.5 million new homes they say they're going to build. I don't think they will build 1.5 million new homes. They certainly in the next couple of years we'll be lucky to have 150,000 a year built. However, what we actually need is millions of new homes built. But we don't build anything in this country. We don't build reservoirs, we don't build power stations, we don't build train lines, we don't build new airport runways, we don't build homes. What we need is whole new towns. Someone is going to have to agree to have it somewhere.
Two things. One, I live in Birmingham, and the amount of building that there has been over the last few years in brownfield sites, old industrial sites, and others, converting them into housing estates and others with what's not bad.
Around my way, it's all next to the railway lines. Every bit of spare land
is phenomenal. There's huge amounts, and I heard an interview yesterday where the last government had got 1.2 million homes built. So 1.5 could be in there. How they've calculated that, I don't know.
No, their target was about that. They didn't actually hit anything like it.
Well, that's not what they said in the interview, but how they've calculated it, and all the rest of it. You know what politicians are like when they say things. But if they want the planning reforms, instead of tacking more big estates onto conurbations where you haven't done the proper survey to see how it's going to affect your floodplains, how it's going to affect the waste disposal, so we get more pollution rivers, not less pollution, why don't they go and say, right, these are parts of the country and we'll design complete new villages and we'll build them from the centre of the community and the high street out and make them look really good, and the sorts of places with schools, with doctors,
build the infrastructure, build the roads, build everything else.
And places that people will say, oh, that looks lovely, I want to move there and I want to live there. That would be a planning reform that would
But also homes with gardens where people can raise families. One of the biggest crises we've got, we're told, we have to keep importing people. We have to import people to do jobs, well, we can train our own people up to build houses. What a great way of getting our economy going. But also, you know, with the demographics, people are getting older, people aren't having enough children. Why aren't they having children? Because they can't afford a home. They can't afford to buy a home with a second bedroom. They can't afford certainly a third bedroom. I know loads of people who would love to have had more kids, but they just can't. I literally physically can't afford it. I'm not having 3 kids in one room. If we actually had affordable, more housing, boost supply, stop worrying about demand. We've got the demand. Boost the supply. I mean, buy a couple of million houses. People can afford to have children because housing costs would go down and they can afford somewhere bigger, suitable to a family. And then that would help solve a lot of our other problems demographically. This is all about joined-up thinking. But the crucial thing about this is you don't get any credit for it. Well, if you're in any government, you get nothing but the grief from all the people who currently own a home. You own a home in a lovely leafy area. You don't want any more homes built. I understand that. But you'd have objected to your own home being built. That's the irony, you know. But why is yours okay but not someone else's? And then the same people will go, it's absolutely awful. I don't want anyone building near here. But you know what's also awful? My own children can't afford to buy a home. Do you think those things are linked?
Well, there's another bit, and you talked about affordability of children. What we shouldn't do is have homes that are then available for people who are not contributing to society because they're having lots of children and adding zero value and just take.
I think only Britain's. It is completely normal in most countries that home ownership, the ability to buy a home when there's a shortage, is limited to people who live in this country. I'm so fed up of super-duper luxury flats going up in London, which are basically bought by people from abroad and often rented out rather than actually lived in by a family.
Yeah. And we should get sort of family values and stuff back again. Your village family values. You go to Germany. I lived in Germany, and it was not unusual where you'd have houses where there'd be multiple generations living there, and lots of people go, oh no, terrible.
Can I just say, I love your mum,
exactly.
but don't get any ideas.
But you got those multiple generations. But the houses were almost converted into separate
with a granny flat,
living areas with a granny flats and all the rest of it. But that then helped with social care, that helped with childcare, that helped with everything else.
We cannot solve a single problem in this country without building more homes. Correct. It is that simple. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.